So this guy here has been my main phone since it first came out sometime, towards the end of last year. And I just realized that I actually never made a top 5 favorite things about this phone like I do, my many other devices. And on the same token, I'm going to be talking also about my top 5 least favorite things. Let's jump into it. All right, so to summarize that intro there, this is my top 5 favorite and top 5 least favorite things about this phone. The number 1 favorite thing is going to be this massive screen. I'm not sure if you can see. It's going to be this gigantic screen. It is huge. When you go from a regular phone to this type of screen, it takes some getting used to. I mean, I just love having this additional screen real estate here. Anyone would appreciate a larger screen. You get to see a lot more here. You could navigate things with a lot more ease. Watching movies is just so wonderful here. It's pretty much like watching a movie on a tablet, not a phone, right? And that's the same thing with playing games. In fact, playing games here on this large screen, it just takes the experience to another level, right? It doesn't even feel like you playing on a phone. In a way where I could actually even say that gaming alone is one of the top favorite things to do on this phone here. It's really, really nice. It's just a very, very nice experience. And that was just my number 1. My number 2 favorite thing on this phone here is the performance, right? So it's loaded with the Snapdragon 865 Plus, which when it was released was the best chipset on the Android platform, right? So it was the best up until a couple weeks ago when, the S21 lineup came up with the, 888. But anyway, so performance is fantastic on here. You also get that coupled with 12 gigs of RAM. That is really huge, right? Especially when you have a phone like this one that gives you so much, screen real estate where you can multitask, do so many things at the same time, have so many things open. That 12 gigs of RAM really comes through for you. And the overall performance of this phone is just beast mode. It's extremely fast and smooth. Absolutely zero lag. I've never used this phone and it crashed. I've never experienced that, never experienced any stutter. Performance is off the chart. Now we have the fastest chipset out now, the 888, but that doesn't mean that this is no longer good. This, it doesn't know that the 888 is out there. It's still very good, very powerful. And when I talked about performance and talked about how smooth it is, this actually leads us into the next one here, which is going to be the 120 hertz high refresh rate that we have here. Now, if you've experienced high refresh rate on a large screen like a tablet, then you must know what I'm talking about. This thing is so smooth. Again, if you know what a high refresh rate is, I don't even need to explain to you, but it is so smooth, scrolling things down, going back and forth. And it really, really improves user experience, right? It really takes that to the next level. And my 4th favorite thing on here might surprise some of you guys, the speakers. This thing is loud. It is the loudest phone I've ever used. I'm even thinking it's probably, as far as speakers go, these speakers are probably the loudest speakers ever put on any phone out there. I'm pretty sure I might be wrong, but as far as any phone this is so loud. It's literally as if you were walking around with a mini like one of those mini portable speakers. It's crazy loud and it's crisp, and you would expect that audio quality from Samsung, right? It's just that I was really, really shocked by how loud this thing is. You can literally watch a movie and not even use, headphones or earphones and just use the actual speakers coming out of this phone. It's really, really that good. And my 5th and last favorite thing about this phone, which should actually be number 1, right? But anyways, it's the design. Let's just keep it simple. This is the coolest phone out there. It's subjective, right? So I'm pretty sure some of you will disagree with me because, obviously some people might think, I don't know, an iPhone is the coolest phone out there. But I personally think, again, that's the reason why I love this phone so much. This is the coolest phone design, just that cutting edge technology, this crazy hinge. The type of technology, the amount of technology that this thing is packed with is what makes me a huge fan. Samsung really, they got so many things right with this phone, and I really like it. Again, it does come at a premium price, but you can definitely see why it costs so much. You have, that very large 7.6-inch folding display that you can use, or if you prefer, you could just use the 6.2 front display. You have that very well improved hinge there that gives off that clamping shut sound that makes it look and sound cool. Again, it's expensive, and you can see why it's expensive. Again, I'm not saying that I'm justifying the price, but I'm saying that you can see why it costs so much, right? So we could keep going about this, but there's so many things to really like and even just love about this phone. I could make a top 50, a top 100 things I like about this phone. We can, and just not stop. Let's talk about my top 5 least favorite things about this phone. And the number one, the first thing is probably one that you guys have heard me complain about. It's the fact that you cannot expand that internal storage. So you get this thing at 256 gigs base internal storage, and that's pretty much it. You cannot go past that. And when you pay such a premium for a phone like this one, you actually don't want to imagine that you're just limited to 256 gigs of internal storage. Granted, the average person probably doesn't need more than 256 gigs. I'm pretty sure they've done, their homework and study and realized that people don't go past that. But when you pay so much for a phone, you kind of want everything, right? And we do see where the trend that Samsung is now following came from. Remember the S21, like the one that I have, is non-expandable. You cannot expand that storage. And I feel like it started here because before this one, the other Samsung devices all had the expandable storage. And my hope is that they change it back in the future. I doubt they will. It would really be cool if they could bring it back, the ability to expand that storage. So my number 2 least favorite thing about this phone is the lack of apps optimization, right? So the phone itself, or the screen, is, unlike any other phone out there, right? So when these apps developers, when they make these apps, obviously they don't really take into account this particular phone. So you have tons of apps there, but just a few that are really optimized to work very well with this type of screen setup. And it's not necessarily, this particular device's fault. Again, it's just that, the makers of these apps don't take into account this particular phone here, or didn't take into account this particular phone. So while you are able to use most apps, there are a few that might not work properly, at least not as well as they were intended to work on the phone, at least for now. But again, you have these app developers or make it to be optimized to work properly with this phone. All right, so the next one here, the next least favorite, is the lack of IP rating, right? So, and by that I simply mean that it is not water resistant or water dust resistant. So even though the phone itself is tougher than it looks, many people really think that this thing here is fragile, but it's actually tougher than it looks. If you think about it, it's cutting edge technology, like I said, but you have so many moving parts, right? You have so many independent parts. I mean, just this hinge here, you have things that can get in there. I'm pretty sure the hinge, so many other things about this phone would just make it vulnerable to some type of liquid. Again, this is just the second iteration of this lineup, this particular phone, and Samsung is constantly working on getting better. So who knows, in the future, I'm pretty sure they'll get there in the future, just like with all the previous phones before we started having phones that were IP rated. All right, so the number 4 least favorite thing here is going to be the price. Now, this is a super premium phone for a super premium price. And I've said this like 4 times, 5 times now. This is cutting edge technology, right? I keep saying it. So it's cutting edge technology and you kind of expect it to pay that premium, right? But still, it's $2,000 though, So like the average person, not that they can't afford it, but the average person is going to be like, I could probably buy that, but why would I when I could just buy a regular phone that can do most, things that that phone can do. I don't really need that 7 point whatever it is, display. I just need a regular phone. So most, like the average user, won't really be compelled to buy something like this. Simply, it won't make much financial sense to them, But for someone who loves tech like myself and many others out there, when you look at things that went into the building of this phone. You can kind of understand why that price is where it's at. You would wish, or you would hope, I personally, before they released it, I was hoping it would be lower, right? It would be somewhere around 1,500. I really wished it was that low. But if you think about it, what are the prices today, right? Look at I don't know, if you want a decent internal base storage of the iPhone 12 Pro Max, like in my case, I would want a large phone, right? Like a 12 Pro Max with base storage that is decent, like a 256, or you look at the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. The S20 Ultra was 1,400, if I remember correctly. The S21 Ultra is 1,300, I think. So you can kind of see why it was really, at 2,000. But anyways, my fifth and last one is going to be the typing experience. Now, as you would imagine, when you buy this particular phone, it requires some level, there's a learning curve, right? So you really, it takes some getting used to. So even typing here, the experience, especially when you're coming from like a regular phone where you just use one hand, you cannot type. I have large hands, but even I can't, reach across on this phone, right? So it requires for you to, and even if you're used to using two hands on a regular phone, using two hands on this phone is kind of odd at first, right? Because, the keyboard is larger and it's wider, and you can even split it, and it's still, I don't know, it's just not, I don't think it's that intuitive. You have to kind of really get used to, or pick a way you like to type on here, get used to that way, and just stick with typing it that way. Same with the front here, because it's kind of a narrower face to, to that front screen. It's weird. It's a little awkward typing on it, right? So it also requires you getting used to this part, because again, even though it's about the same height as a regular phone, it's definitely narrower. You can use like the Swift key feature and that would help a little, but it's still a different experience. So those were my top 5 favorite and my top 5 least favorite things about the all new Z, or the Galaxy Z Fold 2 that we have here. I hope you enjoyed this video here. Hope it was also informative. If you have any questions, please make sure to put those in the comment section. Make sure to check out my other videos. Obviously, I make tons of videos. For people who have been around, they know that I've made tons of videos. If you're new here, of course, like I said, make sure to check out the other videos, whether it's on tablets or phones. And I'll catch you in the comment section like I always do. And I'm also going to catch you in the next video. As always, up until then, stay safe out there.